Croeso. This is Benjamin, and today we're talking about Spain. Well, Portugal, Catalonia, Basque, all of these belong to a geographic sphere called Iberia. And what does this mean? Well, that's what this video is about. The name Iberia first shows up in about 500 BCE from a man named Hecatus of Miletus, a Greek. He's kind of like a father of geography, and not much of his work has survived, but he describes peoples to the west, Tortosus, around present-day Sevilla. Keep note of them. But he mentions this name Iberia, and he says that a people of the Phocaya gave it to him. But they lived in present-day Turkey, which was Greek at that time and would be for another 2,500 years, almost. But how did they get this name? Well, there were Greek colonies around the Mediterranean, especially around Marseille in present-day France. And going to the west, the shores of Catalonia were very rich, and it attracted Greek adventurers and explorers. But by then this land, which would become Iberia, was already old in the mind of the Greeks. There had been this culture Tartessos, which was probably a fusion of Iberian Celtic with pre-Indo-European around present-day Sevilla, and they had rich resources and art, and they were traders. And this area just past Gibraltar was the edge of the world to the Greeks at the time. Hercules gave the myth to the pillars of Gibraltar, and Spain would even put this on their flag and their coat of arms as a propaganda boast claiming all to the west of the Straits of Gibraltar. And these wealthy people, the Tartessus and their descendants, attracted people, expansive colonizers, into their lands. The Carthaginians, who pushed a Semitic culture into southern Spain. And they formed a treaty with the Republic of Rome at that time about commercial interests. And it meant that the Greeks could not come into that southern bit around Tartessos. So how does this relate to the name Iberia? Well, it pushed the Greeks up into the northeast because they had Marseille, and they were able to expand into present-day Catalonia, and they founded a colony in Porrion, around the present-day Gulf of Roses. I like that name, it's beautiful. The Greeks weren't really fond of natives. They even built a wall 1,000 feet inland to divide them from the natives. But they still influenced one another, because there was trade going on. But this is at the mouth of the river Fluvia, which is not anything like Iberia. However, further south, there's a river called Ebro. And look at this basin. It's the furthest you can get inland on rivers. Because the Greeks didn't build inland colonies. They built at the mouth of rivers to trade further up inland. They didn't venture really in settlement. And you find Greek artifacts up into Iberia through this region. However, so what does this name mean? We think it comes from the river, but what does the name of the river mean? This gateway allowing the Greeks access up into Iberia for trade. Well, the Greeks called it Iber, probably some kind of disfiguration of the native name. Now in Basque, a non-Indo-European language, Ibar means valley or watered meadow. Either of these things could have given the name, but we don't have anything more concrete. The word bai in Basque would mean a river. And this makes me think of Welsh, because the Saxons coming in, you have this absurd name all over England, Avon, which it's kind of an insult in a way, because it means that they couldn't be bothered to speak the native language, because Avon was river, and so they just took the first part and called it Avon. And I think this is probably what happened, because you get something similar in present-day Serbia. Ibar in Serbian and Ibri in Albanian, for a river that flows there. And it means shining or bright. It could be that this in itself was a pre-Indo-European root that held on. And I think that's what happened with Ebro as well. Some type of pre-Indo-European root. And the reason why this is important for us is that it shows European civilization is older than European civilization. The Indo-Europeans are not the first people here. And we have names that are so old. One, we don't know who they came from, and two, we don't even know what they could possibly mean, though we have suggestions and we have guesses. It makes us, I think, a very rich culture, that we have all these layers. And Iberia, that peninsula of Catalans, Basques, Spanish, Portuguese, Galicians, Andalucians, all these peoples, it's not homogeneous, neither is their history. And when you hear beautiful music like flamenco, which is a hybrid of cultures in itself, it reminds us how rich Europe is. We'll see you next time. And thank you to my Patreons for your kind contribution. Here are your names on the screen now.